Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Easy Story Studio. Today, we have a beautiful and inspiring story for you titled Elias and the Silver Pocket Watch. It's a heartwarming tale about patience, family legacy, and a mysterious discovery hidden inside an old timepiece. Sit back, relax, and listen closely as we dive into today's story. Elias stood in front of the dusty window of his grandfather's old shop. The painted letters on the glass were fading after many years of harsh weather. He took a deep breath and unlocked the heavy wooden door with a rusty key. The inside of the shop smelled strongly of old wood and machine oil. Hundreds of broken clocks were sitting silently on the dark wooden shelves. Elias had inherited this challenging business after his beloved grandfather passed away last month. He walked slowly past the quiet grandfather clocks that lined the narrow hallway. He remembered how this place used to be filled with the cheerful sound of ticking. Now, the overwhelming silence made the young man feel incredibly lonely and sad. Elias was a skilled watchmaker, but he had never run a business before. He worried that nobody needed traditional, mechanical watches in the modern digital age. However, he was determined to honor his grandfather's memory by keeping the shop open. He spent his first week simply cleaning the dust from the glass displays. He polished the wooden counters until they shone brightly in the morning light. Slowly, the gloomy shop started to feel like a welcoming place once again. One rainy Tuesday, Elias was organizing a box of spare parts in the back room. At the very bottom of the heavy box, he found a small velvet bag. He carefully untied the black string and poured the contents onto his work desk. A heavy silver pocket watch fell heavily onto the soft leather pad. It was completely black with tarnish, and the glass cover was badly cracked. Despite its terrible condition, Elias could see that it was a masterpiece of engineering. He carefully opened the back cover using his smallest, sharpest metal tool. Inside, the complex arrangement of tiny gears and springs was completely rusted together. He knew immediately that repairing this magnificent timepiece would be a massive challenge. The intricate mechanism was unlike anything Elias had ever seen in his training. It had extra wheels and tiny levers that didn't seem to make any sense. He decided that fixing this mysterious watch would be his secret, personal project. Every evening, after locking the shop, Elias sat under his bright desk lamp. He wore special magnifying glasses to see the incredibly tiny, fragile metal parts. His hands were steady as he carefully cleaned the rust from each individual gear. The work was incredibly frustrating and required a huge amount of patience. Sometimes he spent 3 entire hours working on a single microscopic screw. But Elias refused to give up because he felt a strange connection to the object. While he was working, he often thought about the person who originally made it. The craftsmanship was so perfect that it must have belonged to someone very important. He wondered what kind of incredible stories this silent watch could tell. Weeks turned into months, and the cold winter slowly arrived in the small town. Snow covered the cobblestone streets, keeping most of the regular customers away. This quiet period gave Elias even more time to focus on the silver pocket watch. He had to manufacture some of the missing pieces completely from scratch. He used his grandfather's ancient lathe to cut fresh brass into perfectly round wheels. It was a difficult process, but his skills improved dramatically with every passing day. By late December, the internal mechanism was finally clean and fully assembled. The silver case was polished until it reflected the room like a perfect mirror. Elias had even installed a brand new, scratch-resistant crystal glass over the dial. The final and most important step was to wind the mainspring. Elias held his breath as he gently turned the small silver crown at the top. He prayed silently that his months of hard work would actually be successful. At first, nothing happened, and a wave of disappointment washed over him. He tapped the silver case gently with the back of his fingernail. Suddenly, A strong, rhythmic ticking sound filled the quiet workshop. The watch had finally come back to life after decades of silence. Elias smiled broadly, feeling a deep sense of pride in his accomplishment. He watched the delicate golden hands sweep smoothly across the porcelain dial. As the minute hand reached 12 o'clock, something highly unexpected happened. A tiny hidden button on the side of the watch suddenly popped outwards. Startled, Elias carefully pressed the mysterious little button with his thumb. The backplate of the watch slid open to reveal a secret compartment. Inside the shallow space, there was a tightly folded piece of thin paper. His hands shook slightly as he removed the delicate, yellowed document. He unfolded the fragile paper and smoothed it out on his desk. It was a beautiful, hand-drawn map of the local mountains from a century ago. A specific cave near the highest peak was marked with a red cross. There was also a short message written in elegant, fading black ink. The message said, "For the one who has the patience to restore time." Elias realized that his grandfather must have known about this incredible secret. His grandfather had probably left the broken watch for him to find on purpose. It was a final lesson about patience, dedication, and the value of hard work. Elias felt tears of gratitude forming in the corners of his eyes. Elias spent the rest of the evening studying the old map carefully. He recognized the mountain peaks from his childhood hiking trips with his grandfather. The Red Cross was located near a dangerous and steep cliff face. He researched the area online and found out it was known for sudden storms. It would require special climbing gear and a lot of careful preparation. He knew he could not simply walk up the mountain in his winter coat. For a brief moment, he considered packing a bag and leaving immediately. The thought of a hidden treasure was incredibly exciting and romantic. However, he looked around his messy shop and remembered his responsibilities. His grandfather had spent his entire life building this small community business. Abandoning the shop now would be a terrible way to honor his memory. Therefore, Elias carefully folded the map and placed it in his safe. He decided not to go searching for the mysterious mountain cave just yet. The real treasure was the confidence he had gained from completing the impossible repair. He finally felt like he was a true master watchmaker, just like his grandfather. The next morning, Elias placed the beautiful silver watch in the front window. He wrote a small card explaining the incredible story of its lengthy restoration. He wanted everyone in the town to see what his little shop could do. People walking down the snowy street stopped to admire the ticking masterpiece. They read the handwritten card and looked through the glass with great interest. Soon, the little bell above the shop door began to ring constantly. Customers brought in their own broken clocks and damaged family heirlooms. They trusted the young man who had the skill to fix such a complicated device. The shop was suddenly filled with lively conversations and the sound of ticking. Elias was busier than he had ever been in his entire life. He hired a young apprentice to help him with the simple, everyday repairs. He wanted to pass on his knowledge, just as his grandfather had done for him. Even though he was busy, Elias always found time to enjoy his work. He loved listening to the different rhythms of the clocks on the walls. It sounded like the beating heart of a healthy, thriving business. Spring eventually arrived, melting the snow and bringing warm sunshine to the town. Elias opened the shop door to let the fresh, sweet air inside. He looked at the silver pocket watch, which was still proudly displayed in the window. A wealthy collector from the city visited the shop one bright afternoon. He offered Elias a huge amount of money to buy the silver watch. The man promised to put it in a famous museum for everyone to see. Elias politely declined the generous offer without even hesitating for a second. The watch was a priceless connection to his family's rich history. It belonged in the window, serving as the proud symbol of the shop. The collector was disappointed, but he respected the young watchmaker's firm decision. Instead, he asked Elias to repair 3 very valuable antique clocks from his collection. This new contract guaranteed that the shop would be successful for many years. The three antique clocks arrived at the shop the very next morning. They were massive, heavy wooden pieces with beautiful gold decorations. Elias felt a surge of excitement as he prepared his tools for the new challenge. He cleared a large space on his main workbench to examine them properly. The young apprentice watched closely, eager to learn about these rare mechanisms. Together, they carefully opened the first clock to diagnose the internal problems. After the collector left, Elias locked the front door for the evening. He walked to the window and carefully wound the silver pocket watch. He listened to its strong, steady heartbeat for a few peaceful moments. He looked up at an old photograph of his grandfather on the wall. The old man in the picture seemed to be smiling down at him. Elias smiled back, knowing he had made his grandfather very proud. He turned off the main lights and grabbed his coat from the hook. The shop was dark, but it was no longer a lonely or sad place. It was filled with life, purpose, and the beautiful promise of tomorrow. And that brings us to the end of Elias's story. Sometimes the greatest treasure isn't a hidden chest on a mountain, but the confidence and skills we build along the way. But I have to ask you, what would you do if you found a secret treasure map? Would you go looking for it or stay and focus on your work like Elias? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this tale, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to Easy Story Studio for more English stories. Thanks for watching and see you in the next story.